Hey, my amazing third graders. Today we are going to be exploring the element of art, shapes. We are going to do that by taking a look at outer space. We are going to think about the shapes that we can use to show the things that we might see in outer space. We are going to be putting in some planets, some stars, maybe a rocket ship, maybe a UFO into our awesome shape space. I look forward to seeing what you make.
For our space shapes landscape, I will be using a pencil, an eraser, a piece of paper, to protect the table, a Sharpie, some crayons, and watercolors. To get started, we're going to start with the pencil and the eraser. I'm just going to clear the decks here. So what are some shapes that we might see in space? All awesome ideas. One of the big ones that we see in space is the circle, or in space it's more of a sphere since it's completely round and has form. On our papers as we draw though, we are going to use the circle shape to show some different planets. I'm going to start with one that's really far in the foreground, and I'm going to do that by drawing a curved line around one of the corners of my paper. Then I'm going to show a planet that's still pretty close, that's kind of big as a full circle, but it's a little bit further away. And I'm going to keep moving through my paper, making circles that are smaller and smaller. I'm going to make this next one touch the edge of my paper, and I'm going to come back down and draw a really small one. Now, why I arranged them the way I did is because it's creating a sense of movement, a sense of motion. The reason for the different sizes and the different places is it helps convey a sense of space. So things that are going off the paper and are at the bottom tend to seem like they're the closest to us. Things that are bigger tend to seem closer to us. Things that are smaller and towards the top of our page tend to seem further away. What are some other shapes that we might see in space? That's right, we might see a rocket ship. So the way that I'm going to draw my rocket ship, you could use different geometric shapes to do yours, is I am going to create a cylinder. Now a cylinder is technically a form. I start with a curved line, then I do two straight lines like I'm making a rectangle, then I do another curved line. I'm going to stack a cone on top. Again, that's technically a form. I'm drawing it as a shape by adding a letter V on top to finish off that cone. I can add a small cylinder with two straight lines and a curved line below for the thruster. And I can use an organic shape for my flame, or a freeform shape, as the case might be in this case. So a shape that doesn't follow any rules, or a shape that occurs in nature depending on how you're thinking about this fire. You can use whatever kinds of shapes you'd like for your rocket ship's windows. I'm going to use some ovals. I could draw a UFO using an oval, and then I'm going to stack a kind of squished oval on top to make that UFO form. I might add some lines coming down from it to show how that is moving. I can add details on my planet, so maybe I draw some kind of free-form shapes to represent the shapes of the continents. Now these are pretty abstract. It's not what our planet actually looks like. If you want to be precise, that would be super fancy pants. Or you can be abstract, or you can make your planets into different planets. Maybe I do some wavy lines for stripes on this planet that's a little bit further away. Maybe I draw some stars in space. I like to draw some squares that have curved lines instead of straight lines for my sides when doing kind of a simple abstract star. Now you'll notice I put an odd number of planets. I have 5. I put an odd number of stars. I also have 5. This helps things feel a little bit more balanced. Next, I am going to add some craters on the planet that's the closest to us, kind of like we'd see on the moon. To draw a crater, I'm going to do an oval. I'm going to attach a curved line at each end of the oval and add one shorter one in the middle. Again, I'm going to do an odd number. I'm going to do 3. So I've got 2 and 3. So that's going to help give some visual texture, because when things are closer to us, we can see a little bit more texture. Now for this project, I'm going to be modeling it using tracing with Sharpie, adding some line work with crayons, and then watercoloring. But you are welcome to use whatever tools you are able to use. So if you aren't able to use all of those tools, that's okay. I recommend that if you are working with a Sharpie, you put a paper underneath your paper so that your table is protected before you trace. Once you're all done tracing with Sharpie, another good idea is to erase any pencil lines you didn't end up right on top of. I'm going to add in some crayon marks. These are going to work as wax resist, so when I come in and paint, the paint is not going to go in those areas. It's cool to use a white crayon to help make areas stay white. So maybe I want my stars to be white, so I can color over those areas with a white. Maybe I want the dome of my rocket ship or the dome of my UFO to be white. Maybe I want the windows on my rocket ship to be white. Those are some fun things to do. You could also add some little dots of the white crayon to be even smaller stars further away in the distance, sprinkled around your paper, that we will discover like magic when we paint over the top. I can add in some work with the crayon to show value and kind of just add a little bit more visual interest into my rocket. So maybe on one side, I decide that side is opposite of the light source, so I'm going to add in some shadowing to make it look like it's round. Maybe I add in some lines in the ocean area of my planet Earth for the wave-like texture. It is up to you how much work you want to do with crayon before you paint, but it'll be important that you do it before you paint. When you're done with the crayon, you are good to start painting. When you're all done painting, make sure that you post your picture to Seesaw. Before putting paints back into your bag, they should be dry. Make sure that you take the time to clean up the area in which you worked.